Good morning, everyone. Virgo, find your seat because what is unfolding in the energy around your life right now is the kind of thing that happens quietly for a long time and then all at once, very loudly, in front of everyone. There is something building. You may have felt it, that low hum beneath the surface of a situation that has been bothering you. A circumstance that never quite added up. A person whose story had too many gaps. Too many moments where the pieces didn't fit, where something felt off, and you couldn't put your finger on exactly what, but you knew, you always know. And what has been hidden, what has been carefully managed and controlled and kept behind a very particular version of events is about to become visible, not because you forced it, not because you orchestrated anything, but because truth, real truth, has its own timeline, its own momentum, its own way of finding the surface, no matter how deep someone tries to bury it. And it is finding the surface now. Before I go further, I want to acknowledge something about the position you have been in. There's a particular kind of loneliness that comes from watching someone operate in a way that feels wrong to you and having no one else seem to notice. You see the gaps in the story, you feel the inconsistencies, you sense something that nobody else seems to be picking up on, and you start to wonder, am I the problem here? Am I the one who is off? That wondering, that self-doubt, is one of the most disorienting things a person can experience. And it is often exactly what someone who is performing wants you to feel. Doubt yourself enough, and you stop paying attention to them. But you kept paying attention. You trusted your own perception, even when it was uncomfortable, even when nobody confirmed it, even when the easier thing would have been to dismiss what you were sensing and just go along. That quiet faithfulness to your own truth is about to be vindicated. Publicly, completely. The one who has been performing, because that is exactly what this has been, a performance. They built a version of themselves for the people around them, a careful construction, brick by brick, word by word, impression by impression, designed to make everyone around them see something specific, believe something specific, something that served them, something that protected them from the consequences of who they actually are. And for a while it worked. Performances usually do. For a while. But here is the problem with building an identity on performance. It requires constant maintenance every single day. Every single interaction, you have to remember what you told whom. You have to keep the stories consistent. You have to manage who is in the room. Who knows what? Who cannot be allowed to talk to whom? It is exhausting. And eventually, without exception, something slips. Enter the third party. Now, I want to be clear about what I mean by this, because this energy is not about one specific person riding in to expose everything, although that may be part of it. The third party energy I see here is the arrival of an outside perspective, someone who was not part of the original narrative, who was not handed the carefully curated version of events, who sees things without the filters that have been deliberately placed over everyone else's eyes. And when an unfiltered perspective enters a room full of carefully managed impressions, things unravel. Questions get asked that were never supposed to be asked. Connections get made that were never supposed to be made. A detail emerges. Something small, something that should not matter, but lands in a way that suddenly makes everything else make sense. In the wrong way, for the person who needed it not to. And once that happens, you cannot unsee it. None of them can. I want to paint you a picture of what this exposure may look like, because I want you to recognize it when it arrives. Even if it comes in a form you didn't expect, it may arrive in a conversation that happens without them present. Two people comparing notes, neither of them looking for anything specific. And then something clicks. A date that doesn't match. A story that was told differently to different people. A detail that someone remembers differently than the way it was presented. It may arrive through someone who simply tells the truth, without strategy, without agenda, just the truth, plainly, directly, in a room where it can no longer be contained. It may arrive through their own behavior, because people who are performing eventually crack under the pressure of the performance. They overreach. They say too much. They reveal something in an unguarded moment that was never supposed to be revealed and cannot be taken back. However it arrives, the result is the same. Everyone sees. Whew. Now I want to speak to something very specific, something about your role in all of this. You did not start this. Whatever has been happening around you, whatever situation has required this level of exposure to reach resolution, you were not the architect of the problem. You were the person who felt its effects, who carried something you shouldn't have had to carry, who perhaps doubted your own perception, because the performance around you was so convincing that even you sometimes wondered if you were reading it wrong. You were not reading it wrong. Everything you felt, every moment of confusion that came from trying to reconcile what you were being shown with what you were actually sensing, was your perception working correctly in a situation specifically designed to confuse it? And now the situation is about to uncreate itself in front of an audience that includes everyone who was part of the performance. I want to talk about how you hold yourself through this, because this is important, and it is where your real power lives in this moment. When the exposure happens and the room shifts and people begin to see what you already knew, there will be a temptation, a very human one, to say, "I told you so," to let the satisfaction show, to remind everyone of every moment you tried to speak your truth and were dismissed or minimized or made to feel like the problem. Resist that temptation. Not because you are wrong to feel it, but because silence in that moment is more powerful than anything you could say. Let the truth Speak. It is already doing so. Your job is not to amplify it. Your job is to stand in your dignity and let the room recalibrate around you without you lifting a finger to make it happen. That stillness in the middle of someone else's chaos is the most commanding thing you can do. Because here is what the people in that room are going to see. When everything comes out, when the performance collapses and the truth fills the space where the fiction used to be, they are going to see two things side by side. They are going to see who that person really was, what they actually built, what they were actually doing beneath the carefully managed surface. And they are going to see you unshaken, clear, standing exactly where you have always stood, with the same truth you have always carried, intact, undisturbed, confirmed. That contrast is everything. That contrast will do more for how people see you than anything you have ever said or done to defend yourself, because the truth is finally doing the defending for you. I want to speak to the relief you may feel when this happens, because it is coming, and it is real, and you deserve to feel it fully. There is a particular kind of exhaustion that comes from knowing something and not being believed, from carrying a truth that other people cannot yet see, from watching someone operate with impunity while the people around them remain unaware, and feeling perhaps like you are somehow the only one who can see clearly. That exhaustion is real, and it has cost you something. Energy, sleep, perhaps your trust in your own perceptions, perhaps your willingness to speak up when you feared you wouldn't be heard. When the exposure happens, all of that cost gets acknowledged, not in words, in reality, in the way the room shifts and people look at you differently, in the quiet moment when you realize, I did not imagine this. I was right all along. Let yourself exhale into that fully without holding any of it back. And now I want to bring this home to what all of this means for you going forward. Because the exposure of someone else's truth is always an opportunity for the clarification of your own. When the noise settles, when the performance has fully collapsed, when the people around you have had time to process what they now know, there is going to be space, a clearing, where something false used to stand. And in that clearing, there is room for something real, something true, something that was always there, but could not be fully seen. While the performance was blocking the light, that something is you, fully visible, fully yourself, in a space that finally has room for what you actually are. The chaos that is coming is not for you. It is around you, and there is a difference. You are the still point, the one who does not need to perform, the one who does not need to manage perceptions, because what you have always shown the world has been real, consistent, unchanged by who was watching. that is rare. And when the performance around you crumbles, that rarity becomes undeniable. Stand still, let the storm move, and when it passes, look at what the clearing reveals. Whew! Because what has been hidden always comes to light. Always, without exception, without negotiation, without anyone needing to force it. The light is coming, and you have nothing to hide from it.